What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about one of the biggest inner game issues in the community, which is, having an ego. But to do this, we're going to have Mr. Indian PE on, and he's going to share his journey of, coming to America and having, the typical, Indian guy ego and struggling with game for a while and just not really seeing results and kind of being a little stubborn to then ultimately, being able to let go of his ego and be the man that you see before your eyes today. So what's up, Mr. Indian P?
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
Pretty good. So do you want to start off by kind of just like talking about, your journey, like why you had an ego round game when you first got into it, and then ultimately how you were able to let go of that?
Oh, for sure. I hope this helps everyone. So I mean, this is like a very old notion of Indians having insecurities, Indians having like some made up principles which some older generation people made, and they're like, oh yeah, this is how life is supposed to be. Everyone other than this country don't know how to live life, etc., etc. So so it's very evident that like we Indians like have like a very monotonous style of living life. It's like always get arranged married, get a 9 to 5 job and work your ass off, have 2 kids, have those 2 kids, go to a 9 to 5 job, get them arranged married, and that's it. Like you just die. What do you have to yeah, what do
So
you have
depressing.
exactly? What do you have to live for? So like I was already under the impression that that's going to be my fate as well. Like all my relatives, etc., like all of them were doing the same thing and they seemed happy. I'm not saying like they were like depressed or etc., but they seemed happy. But then like their bar of happiness was quite low. Mine was super high. Like when I was in 10th grade, 11th grade, I used to watch a lot of American Pie movies. I was like, oh my lord, this is how my life is going to be if I ever go to America. So, so I was like, I mean, yeah, when I did eventually come to America, I see like, okay, holy shit, this is not happening to my life. So I guess I'm just going to get arranged married to a girl I've never known before, and just get a 9 to 5 job. So I remember like a year ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, when I first came across game, I was just watching some YouTube videos just for fun. Like I was just derping around the internet, looking up like prank videos, people just doing some funny stuff, and one thing led to another, and I came across RSD Tyler video, and I was like, okay, maybe I can just try and change my fate. I was like, okay, I have this whatever arranged marriage safety net anyway, so might as well try to do something different. Who knows? Maybe if I fail, I'll fail. If I succeed, even like that's hundred times what I'm expecting out of my life. So I remember like the first year, I watched like a bunch of RSD videos. I would say like 80% of RSD videos that which were present during that time. So I was like, this is how I'm going to go and talk to girls. This is how I'm supposed to approach, etc., etc. But people don't realize something is that what ISD teaches is like it usually is more focused around self development rather than trying to date women, trying to talk to hot chicks, like trying to sleep with really beautiful women. But everyone thinks that, oh, this is supposed to be helping me for some reason. And I got bought into this idea of RSD being like completely like, oh, they're still a dating company. This is how they teach, and they're getting laid because of what they're doing. So I'm sure whatever they're teaching is going to be very successful for me. It's going to be very helpful for me. But then I did that. I did all the RSD teachings for over a year. I practiced that in field. Like I spoke to so many women. That whole year I had zero success. So that whole year, like even before that whole year, I was a virgin, and after that year ended, I was still a virgin. So so I was like, I was like, oh, you know what, I'm still going to be good at this because ours people, they eventually had success, so there's no way this is gonna like not work for me, right? And I remember like I met a few amazing guys who were like getting a lot of results, and they were like, no bro, like you're not supposed to be talking to women like that. You're supposed to be talking in you're supposed to have a structure. You need to have DHVs, you need to be able to DHV, you need to be able to hold sexual tension, etc. All of these aspects of game I really did not learn when I was following RSD. But then I was like, nah, RSD is enough. Like I'm sure what they're teaching, they know their shit. So I was bought into that idea, and I had an ego around RSD. Like I was like, okay, no, 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 no. Whatever RSD teaches, that's the only way it's gonna work out. So I kept still trying that, and then eventually I was like, nah, this is bullshit. I'm not getting late. I'm not getting results.
So okay, so basically the backtrack. So you were, I think, if I remember your story correctly, you were living with a few guys, right, in Vegas, and they were like going out and getting laid, and you were not, and you were following RSD versus they were doing more of like other shit, and they were like, yo, Indian P, will why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And then you were like, nah, 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 nah. This is what this is what works. This is the I'm not gonna. You're basically like not open to any outside perspective because of the ego.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, this is my personality. Like, okay, I learned something new, but then this is part of my personality. So if anyone even tries to threaten it, I'm just going to be very defensive about it. I'm going to go in defensive mode, and I'm not going to try and expand.
Despite the fact that you had like evidence of the contrary, like you had evidence, like okay, you were going out for like a year, you were not getting any results. Your
Yeah.
roommates were getting results, but they were not following RSD, and like you were still like, nope, 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 nope. You were still closed off to it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I felt so demasculated that like I felt that way, but then I couldn't convince myself that yo, bro, this is not working out. Try something new.
So what was the turning point? At what point were you like, okay, like I need to let go of my ego a little bit?
So I remember like me and Gabriel Gray, we went to a restaurant when he was in Vegas, and he was like, okay, I mean, bro, I mean, I told everyone back then that I had a lay count of 3, even though I was a virgin, so that they actually helped me, because I know no one wants to help a virgin, because virgins are already have already accepted their fate. So I just lied to them that I have like a lay count of 3. And then Gabriel knew like my progress. I was like 1 year into game. I had 0 results. So he's like, yeah. So like I really want to talk to you about this. Um, so what is it like? So why do you think you're not getting results? I'm like, oh, I'm trying different things. I feel like the girls are into me, but I'm not doing the right things. And then he's like, yeah, there you go. So what do you think are the right things wherever you learn this? Is completely different to what's supposed to be done. Like you see me every night going out and pulling a different girl and closing her. So what am I doing right? And then he's like, so that's the thing. Like you are failing to recognize what's supposed to be done, and that's the reason why you're not able to do the I mean, like you're not able to get results. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this for 2 months. I'm gonna try drop every RSD technique out there, and I'm going to try and learn from Gabriel. So I remember like for a couple of months he was living with me, and by the end of the second month, like I remember he was trying to explain me how attraction works, how women's psychology works, but it was still out of my reality. So I was like, okay, yeah, just give me the lines. I'll try to say them. I'll try to use these techniques without even understanding what they are being used for. So I remember like there was this one specific night. I walk up to a really hot girl, and then whatever Gabriel was saying, I was telling to that girl, and all of a sudden it was working. And then eventually I actually pulled her and closed her in my car. That's how I lost my virginity. So I was like, holy fuck, okay. Well, I wasted my whole year, and all that required was like a shift in my mindset, shift in my wanting to learn something different, and like opening up my mind just to something which was already successful, which was being tried by different guys, and it was successful. So I was like, okay, this is what's the turning point. This is why I was not getting results.
Okay, I see. And then okay, so you had that shift. Now, how do you think that how did your results become better when you kind of started letting go of your ego?
So yeah, So as soon as I lost my virginity, I was like, I had a brain like an epiphany. I was like, okay, so whatever I learned through the past year, I know I invested my time so much into it, but just because I invested my time into it doesn't mean that I have to keep investing more and more in it to try and make it work. So I was like, okay, I'm going to start from ground zero and see if I can actually get to a level where these guys are at. So I was like, okay, so slowly and steadily, like even when I was talking to women, right, when I was trying to use these new techniques, I had this small voice in my head saying like, no, 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 this is not what you're supposed to say. No, what are you saying? What are you saying? Like that ego, like that voice itself, I would like call it as ego, because like it's stopping you from trying out something. It's like protecting my identity. So basically, like ego was stopping me from actually trying something new, like trying to open up my mind.
Yeah. I mean, so let's get into. I want to get into how do you see ego in the community? Like, because I think that's one of the big things that holds guys back. Like, I really do. Like, I mean, there's other ones obviously besides that, but I really do think this is one of the big ones. Like, so how do you personally, like, for example, in the Facebook groups, in the forums, how do you see ego, and like how does it hold guys back?
So yeah, so I mean, I think everyone would be in the same boat. So they buy into some kind of like a technique, like some kind of a style of
Mindset.
game, yeah,
Yeah.
mindset and style of game, and they're like, okay, this is how it's supposed to work. And then whenever they get like evidence to the contrary, rather than listening to that person, okay, this guy has results too, why not try and listen to this guy? Rather than listening to that, they're like, no, no, this is how I've been getting results, however low, however high. They just think like, oh, that's enough, that's enough. They never really like try to open up their mind to something which well, okay, maybe this might actually help. They never think in those terms. They're like, oh no, I read it somewhere back in Black Dragon's book, that this is how you're supposed to talk. This is how text game is supposed to work. You're supposed to keep your text game low. You're supposed to match up the investment of the girl, match up the time investment, etc., etc., etc. But then I'm sitting there in our mastermind. I'm sitting there. No, dude, you don't have to worry about it, because whatever we're going to text her is going to be high value enough for the whole investment difference, what value drop. So like I see, like all of these guys, like they make such mistakes, but then they keep making it again and again. They don't realize that they made a mistake, and they're like, okay, I have to try and correct it, because if they feel like they're trying to correct it, they're at a stage where like, oh no, okay, my ego is threatened, done. They're like, oh, my ego is going to get hurt.
Yeah, I think there's different levels in it, but I think having like an ego, I do think that's what happens. So a guy like reads something and he like grabs onto that idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he just clings onto it. And then for example, when he hears something that's on the contrary, he gets defensive. He can't like logically evaluate the other idea, like the pros and cons. And you see this with game, and you see this with religion, you see this with politics. You don't really see this with like so much as other things. Like you don't really see this with like I don't know. You don't really see this with like cooking as much or something like that. Like you wouldn't see like, hey, by the way, if you charbroil this, like, what the fuck? This is going in the oven, motherfucker. Like you just don't see that as much with like some things. But yeah, with game is definitely one of the things that you really see this with. So I don't really know why, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever, something that guys grab onto and they just can't let go. And I think it caused them to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. Whenever I see a guy making the same exact mistakes, despite, me correcting them like over
Mm-hmm.
and over again, I do think like it's got to be ego. Like that's causing them to like just go down. Like they know that like, okay, they have the correct information, but they refuse to take it because they're just like stuck on that initial idea. And until they kind of just are able to like let go of their ego a little bit
Yeah.
and let go of the incorrect info. I do think that like also the guys who see results the fastest, like say someone doesn't know jack shit about whatever dating or online game or whatever, the guys who see results the fastest are the guys who have the lowest egos. Like those are the easiest people to train because they just like soak up information, and then they're able to like try it out for their own. They're able to see success. Versus the
Mm-hmm.
guys who have like really strong egos, they can be like the tough cases because you have to constantly fucking break down their existing beliefs and their existing beliefs. Okay, so another thing I wanted to ask you is how do you think ego applies to text game?
So, I mean, we all know like the golden rules of text game, right? So, like, I would say like the top three rules of text game is like not to double text a girl, not investing more than the girl herself, and like the other one is like not try and have a boring platonic conversation. So I feel like in text game, it's a lot different, but in essence, it's still the same. You are trying so hard to like impress this girl or make the girl like you, or like you're trying different things, like you're trying to DHV, but if it's not hitting, and then you're like, oh no, fuck, I made a mistake. God damn it, right? Like you kick yourself you kick yourself for doing something like such a small mistake. So like guys need to realize that like holding on to one girl is basically like holding on to their own ego. They're taking it so personal that okay, if this girl doesn't show up to the date, that means I'm a piece of shit. They're taking it personally, like okay, if she rejects me, that means I'm a piece of shit, like I'm worthless, because like that's they're putting their ego on the line for every single lead they talk to. So that's why like when it comes to like no double texting, right, they get so excited by the small validation that the girl gives. She's like, oh wow, so you're into Pokemon, fucking I love fucking Pokemon, and the guy is like, oh my lord, finally a woman who likes Pokemon. I'm gonna text so much, and then like they end up like texting a lot and just one single text in reply to that one line, and then they're like, oh shit, she did not reply. Oh fuck, maybe that was too long, and then they'll try to retaliate. They'll try to send something more, and then they just lose it there because they're like, oh shit. They got excited by that small validation hit they got from the girl. She's like, oh, she's trying to build commonality. That means she likes me. Okay, if she likes me, that means she's down to meet. So I'm going to try to make this happen quick. So that's where like ego like actually hurts them because they're so invested in a girl they've never really met. They've never really spoke to, and they end up they and the girl ends up ghosting them, and they're ending up with their dick in their hand. They're like, oh, okay, this is my Saturday night, so this is what's gonna happen.
Huh. Yeah, I will build on that by saying also, for example, with the double text thing, right? Like you shouldn't double text, but if it's been a few days, you're good to double text. Like it's better to send her another message and see if she'll answer to it. Like many of my dates, it took me like I had to double text at some point. The difference is how fast. Like, do you double text like 20 minutes in, or do you double text a day or two later? Right? It's really in the subtle details. But I think that also a lot of guys, they'll just like a girl will not respond to their last text, and because their ego is like on the line, they take it so personally. They think that this fucking girl, she fucking whatever, she's stuck up. But in reality, like maybe that girl didn't even see the message, or maybe she was just busy and she just forgot to write back when she was meaning to. Like more often than not, it's like something along the lines of that. Or for example, if a girl like flakes or reschedules, right? Like a lot of guys will just like take like reschedules so personally. Like a girl will be like, hey, I'm really sorry, but my grandma died and I have to go to the hospital and whatever, and the funeral home, and the guys will be like, fucking bitch, like
you're playing like, games, you're bullshitting,
playing games. I don't got time for this shit. Like in reality, it's like shit happens, like just like taking things so personally. But when you can just let go of that and like really not, and it's one of those things that's easier said than done. But like when I think it also a big part of it is having abundance. Like if you have a lot of girls in your life, it helps, and just a lot of things going for you. But when you can kind of let go of that and just like really you want the girl but you don't really care as much, that's when like you can really like run the best text game. Like when she reschedules on you, it's not like a fuck you, it's like a okay, cool. Like you don't really care that much, and then she sees that you don't care, which raises your value because the majority of guys do really give a shit. So it's stuff like that. I think that like ego like will really like limit guys when they're texting girls. Another big one that I've seen quite often. I'm gonna call this out in parts of the Reddit community. I will see guys stuck on this idea that texting can only be used to set up dates. You can only use texting to set up logistics, and text game does not exist. And like this is a belief that might have been correct in like 2007, but in 2019 they failed to realize that the world has changed and texting has become a huge fucking medium for communication. And girls like to talk over text and get to know a guy a little bit before they meet up with him. And I just see these guys like blow out lead after lead because they just like their first message is like, "What time are you free?" Like instead of just like chatting with a girl a little bit, making her feel a little comfortable over text. And they're still stuck on this idea that you cannot use text game to like do anything besides make plans. And so like I give them evidence of the contrary and they just refuse to believe it. And it's not because, it's not because the evidence is strong, just because their ego prevents them from like accepting another perspective. So I do think that's like a big thing. And I do think that, how do you think a guy who's watching this and is like, shit, I have a bit of an ego. What do you think they can do to like start to let go of that?
I feel like the number one thing they need to realize is that ego is stopping them to think objectively. Like let's say they're trying to get their best friend laid, okay? So if they're trying to get their best friend laid, they actually have zero gain because that's not their, I mean, like they don't have their personality on the line if the girl rejects, right? So like if you put things in perspective, like you're like, oh wait, if I actually I'm trying to get my best friend laid, I'm actually doing better game than actually trying to text for myself. So they need to realize, okay, what's the rule here? When a girl texts you, like what's the rule here? Okay, first things first, I'm going to try and understand what she's saying, what she's really meaning by what she's saying, and I'm going to try to go back to like the text game basics, and I'm going to take out a line from this, but only if it applies here. Okay, so when guys are like uh, they, they feel like their personality is on the line, they get very defensive, they take it very personal, and and in the end their text game is like skewing up results. They're like, oh wait, this is the only way text game is supposed to work, and they're not realizing they're dropping off so many leads by just doing like very minimal text game, and then they're like, no, this is still how it's supposed to work. So so when it feels like you're getting emotional by a girl texting you, that's when you know like your ego is either taking a hit or it's either getting a validation. So both of those things are bad for you, because if you're getting validation from a girl's text, that means your ego is increasing, and if you get rejected and you feel like a piece of shit, that means your ego is getting hurt. So if there's no ego at all, you can take out emotion out of what you're trying to achieve, and your main goal is the goal itself.
Yeah, I would also add that I think just like having a big ego is just kind of lame. Like growing up in high school, like the guys who I thought were the most lame were like the people who had like a giant ego. Like I just think that like if you want to be like fucking like a lame loser, like have a giant ego. Like at least in my eyes, whenever I meet someone who has a huge ego, it's just like a big turn off to me. Like in terms of being friends with them or whatever. I just think that it's just like really lame, and I just think that if you can consciously realize that, it helps you to like kind of like start to like more or less like tone down your own ego, and then also you just become a lot happier because you're just not like constantly becoming like butthurt over little things, and not everything is a personal attack to you. You can have like logical, rational debates with people without like someone ending without it being a screaming match or like you getting butthurt or stomping off or whatever. I would end off as that. All right. Do you have any closing thoughts on this?
No, I mean, all I would say is like when it comes to text game, the guys need to realize that there's so many leads out there. Like, if you lose one lead, there's 10 other leads you can go out and get. Like, you can go out and get, or you can just pump up your Tinder, get some more matches, and you have other leads to work on. So, like, even if you don't have an abundance mindset, you have physical abundance. So you're already step ahead, trying to get results, because you're like, okay, I have abundance, so I'm going to try and burn out every lead, but I'm going to try and do something different this time.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Show us some love by hitting the like button, the subscribe button, hitting the bell for notifications. And let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed this type of video, because we'll be including Mr. Indian PE in more of these discussion type of videos. Thank you for watching, and till next time.